We're live.
Yeah, cool.
Hello everybody.
To Facebook.
Yeah.
Hi, everyone.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the show. Welcome to How Star Wars Is It?
Yes, How Star Wars Is It is our podcast that the two of us do. My name is Mike.
My name is Josiah, and it is not only the podcast that we do, but it is also the only podcast.
Yeah, we looked around and we couldn't find any other podcast, so we are the only one.
Mm-hmm.
And we're a review show.
Yeah, we review everything, not just movies, not just TV shows. We review everything. So anything from, food, animals, and we do movies and TV shows.
We do.
We do those for sure.
Yeah.
But we rate them on a scale of 1 to 10, not of how good they are, but of how Star Wars they are.
Imagine if everything in the Star Wars world, whether it's legends or canon, or even if it's fan fiction, or if it's a board game, or if it's a comic book, or whatever, if all of that Star Wars stuff got thrown into a pot and it was boiled down into a chili.
Yes.
That's chili is a perfect 10 out of 10. Yeah. So we're grading everything against that chili.
So today we're talking about...
Does that make sense?
Does that make sense? Because that's the concept of the show. And it is silly. So if you are here... John says it makes sense.
Okay, good.
If you are here expecting a very deliberate and sort of like intelligent breakdown of the 2003 Tartakovsky Clone Wars animated short series, then you will get that a little bit for sure.
No, we definitely pride ourselves on being like some sort of dumb version of like critical theory. You know how like you might look at a story through the lens of, like social justice, or you might look at it through, other like critical theory lenses.
But our lens,
we're not like academics, though.
No, our lens is just Star Wars. And before we get really started, it was mentioned in the chat earlier by Peter, but we are raising money for the Make-A-Wish Greater LA. So you can make a donation. It's right there in the chat. There's the link, because Get Vocal will also match 33% of all donations today. And tomorrow. So a lot of money's already been raised. I was looking at the stuff earlier. So if you want to leave a donation, if you haven't already, go check out the link in the chat.
Yeah.
And feel free to send off in the chat, guys. We're going to play a game later that is going to be audience participatory.
Yes.
So
you're going to try to beat Josiah because I wrote the questions for the game. Also, you'll notice we both have our Hisui shirts on. That's not necessarily a plug that we have shirts, although we do, and you can go get them. But that stands, of course, for How Star Wars Is It. So that's the name of our scale that we rate from 1 to 10, the Hisui scale.
It's a proprietary Hisui scale.
Yeah, and so as you may be aware, given the name of the panel, this week's topic for How Star Wars Is It is in fact a Star Wars thing. So that always helps. It is the Genndy Tartakovsky 2003 Clone Wars animated shorts.
Yes, which together make a long, if I do say so myself.
They make one long.
A bunch of shorts make one big long.
But hey, call me a bug catcher on the route to Mount Moon, but I love shorts.
I love them too.
Or a youngster,
yes. These shorts. He's in like all the games recently. We actually recorded a Pokemon episode recently about Pokemon Go. So yes, this is so if you are listeners to the show, and for our listeners listening later, you know that for me, poor Josiah, I did not have television growing up. I didn't have the cool channels, so I did not have a way to watch these things unless I guess I could have rented it, I guess, on DVD or whatever after the fact.
I wonder
if you could have, but I watched these for the first time for this show, and
like this past week.
Yeah, and maybe I'm outing myself as not a good Star Wars fan, because I don't know if everyone's seen these, but I watched them for the first time, and they're really cool and good. Man,
they are so cool.
They're great. I
took a bunch of notes because I had seen them maybe once or twice before, but I took a ton of notes because I knew we were going to be talking about it. And then basically all my notes are just like, oh, whoa,
sick, dude.
That's so cool.
So sometimes
punching him.
Mace Windu's punching some robots. It is really cool. It's very fun. There's like, on this show, sometimes we talk about sometimes when we're very good at what we do some pros and cons of like, why is it Star Wars?
Yes.
Why isn't it Star
As
Wars?
if this thing were on trial for not being Star Wars. So
Yeah.
it's our duty as the public defender to say, no, it is being Star Wars, and here's
Yes.
why.
And yes, we are defendants. We are not prosecutors.
Yes, yeah.
I want to make that very clear.
Yes, right. And this is all pro bono.
Oh yeah. No one's getting paid.
We don't make one red cent.
We're working for the state, baby. But so for if anybody who hasn't seen it, for anybody in the chat or in the room or our later listeners, it sort of takes place it's the Clone Wars, right? It takes place sort of in between Attack of the Clones and what the third one?
Yeah, Revenge of the
Sith. I couldn't remember the name for a second because we're live and I'm embarrassed. I'm all nervous because we're live. But it's cool. So it takes place in between those. You get to see like Anakin and Obi-Wan. It's sort of like the Clone Wars animated series. That's not this one,
right?
And that it like fills in those gaps.
First pro already out the gate. It has confusing title. Like,
yeah.
Did this come before that, or was that after, or
who knows? Or was it is it in the cracks of that show? But it came out chronologically in our time in the real world.
Yes.
It was before.
Yeah, and it came out actually between episode 2 and episode 3.
Yes. So actually John said something that is a point that I wanted to talk about.
Yeah.
Is James Arnold Taylor's first voice role as Obi-Wan. And I think he kills it because
he knocks it out of the park.
He very much sounds like Ewan McGregor, but not like off-brand Ewan McGregor.
Right.
Like it's a good performance of a character that you believe like, oh, this is Obi-Wan. And I think I think a pro for me is that like the voice acting in this and the writing in this is like sometimes really good, and then sometimes it's like, what was that? I don't know. But like Ewan McGregor, for instance, sounds great, and then like the guy they have that voices Anakin sounds just kind of like, fine.
I kind of like him because it sounds like he's doing Hayden Christensen Anakin, which
it
like the Cartoon Network, later Netflix, later Disney 3D animated series, he's doing like his own performance, which I think is probably like a stronger character because it makes you actually like Anakin. But like the Anakin in this is doing that sort of like master thing, that cool guy thing.
Yeah. But it is like the voice acting throughout is I'd say pretty good in general, but then there is some weird stuff that just kind of stands out where you're like, I don't know what that was. And like, this is a pro and a con. Yeah, Mike, that was a perfect Anakin. If you want to hear Mike doing an Anakin impression, I believe there is a episode.
I really wish. Oh yeah, God, that was from quite a while ago. Yeah. I really wish that's an impression that I would love to be able to do like well, because I think it's so goofy.
Master. But it's a pro and a con. What was I going to say? Oh, the the medium itself, because it's a pro that it's animation, right? Because there's a lot of Star Wars animated content.
Sure.
But then like it's also a con.
All the prequels
right,
are pretty much animation.
But it's also a con, right? Because it's like the biggest quote unquote Star Wars, the thing that has the heaviest weight for Star Wars are the live action
film. Yeah.
And there's also just like so much other content that's not animation.
Yeah. So it's kind of like a 50-50 case. It's not here nor there really. Speaking back to voice actors, by the way, and I know maybe you won't appreciate it as much since you didn't grow up with TV, but as soon as Padme talked, I was like, oh, that's Vicky from Fairly Odd Parents. It's Gray Delisle, nay Gray Griffin, who is and stuff, and she's great.
I love that. And then Timmy Turner shows up and is like, gets Cosmo and Wanda to do something. I saw some TV. This
Padme kept yelling at the droids to go to bed.
I recently hung out with my older brother. We were talking about how we didn't grow up with like cable, and how when I would go to friends' houses, like all I wanted to do was watch TV, and like my friends had cable, so they didn't care. So like they would be like, "Can we go like play?" And I'd be like, no, I've got to watch Jimmy Neutron. I've got to watch Fairly Odd Parents. You don't understand. I am deprived.
I was just talking about Jimmy Neutron today. You know his good friend Sheen, who loves Ultra Lord?
Yeah, Ultra Lord.
You know his last name is Estevez?
Oh,
Like
no.
Sheen, like Charlie Sheen and Emilio Estevez. That's
So
kind of a
he's
fun, like
that's
grown up
fun.
joke.
That's a fun little Easter egg that I
Yeah.
no one knew. Another
So
part
this
of
is the show, by the way. If you're
right,
new, if you're
we're gonna
new to
take
this show, we are going to tell you that it's about a topic, and then we will inevitably probably talk about Skyline Chili for 15 minutes.
yes. John's coming in with the facts. Because Martin Sheen's real
Oh,
name is Ramon Estevez. So Sheen is
he's
part of the
both.
Sheen family, confirmed.
Yeah.
Um, that's my
Live
new
action
conspiracy
Jimmy
theory.
Neutron when?
I think Mike Gospel should play live action Jimmy
Oh
Neutron.
man, I just did an at home haircut like maybe 3 days ago, and otherwise I was exactly Jimmy Neutron's head.
Like,
Like
poof.
I got a blast.
I got a
Um,
blast. The other thing I was going to
so
say about the medium of this is that, like,
oh yes,
half of it is like a silent film, and it's or not a silent, it's a dialogue-less film, right? Because there's still music,
right.
and those sequences are great.
They
Like
just rule.
those are, I think, the strongest sequences. Is like that's where the animation shines. That's where like the storytelling through the animation really shines. Like each character has really cool ways they fight. Like watching, like we joked about earlier, but watching Mace Windu like be like, I don't even need a lightsaber,
Yeah.
and just punching robots is just
Yeah. Just like
it's
metal and gears and cables.
yeah, it's so good,
And they're just exploding.
just left and right. That's
A couple of pros I wrote down. This is down to dialogue, but the I've got a bad feeling about this happens a number of times, as well as a number of other like
yes,
sort of almost like cliche Star Wars dialogue that like you hear them speak it and you're like, oh okay, well that was for the fans, but
it's
like
a call, but yeah, it's
like
a
what a lovely smell you've discovered or whatever the exact quote is. But like Star
Steven
Wars.
Right as you said it. Yeah,
Oh,
Steven
what an
right
incredible
as you said
smell you've discovered. Yeah, like so. Yeah, and seeing John saying after watching Attack of the Clones, the lack of dialogue was glorious. Yeah, I know the lack of dialogue is. I don't know if it is a pro or a con. I think it's a con because all the Star Wars movies be talking a lot, and they have a lot of goofy things that they say.
They do love to be very verbose and sometimes not eloquent. But verbose. But yeah, the but verbose.
But verbose.
Yeah, the silent movie elements of the story are fantastic, and it really is just they. And this is what I do. This is the pro of that. What this and what are my pros here? That this little series of shorts does well is they play in the sandbox of Star Wars so well.
Yes, I wrote down I wish more artists were given just sort of like a blank canvas with Star Wars to do what they want, because like this doesn't look like anything else, which I think might be a con, but the playing in the playground thing, the sandbox thing is just exactly like, oh man, more people do that. I want to see a Wes Anderson Star Wars, I guess is what I'm saying.
Well, this goes back to one of my biggest points, and we've talked about it on the show before, but everything should be public domain. No more intellectual property. It's time to just anybody can make anything, and then you'll have really cool stuff like this.
Like there's a dude who's a like Hell's Angel motorcycle guy who is a jousting robot.
Yeah, and he's got like
and he leads a bunch of like black IG units, and they're all on like jousting speeder bikes, and so are all the troopers too. Like I wrote down, is jousting just a thing?
Yeah, jousting.
I wasn't aware.
Jousting's very popular in the Star Wars universe, or at least during this time it was. But yeah, it's very cool because you get the Tartakovsky Gendy. Is that how you say it? Gendy? I don't know.
I think it's Gendry.
Gendry.
Or is it Gendy or Gendy?
John will
chime in the chat. If,
someone in the chat will tell us how to say it right. But
because it can't be Gendry. That's the guy from Game of Thrones, right?
Yeah, you can't, and no one can have the same name. Everyone
Hard G, G,
Hard G, G, Gendy, Gendy. But so his style is so specific and singular, and you get really cool takes on classic Star Wars characters. Like you get Yoda in a little hoodie with like things for his ears.
And
and
like
he's
Padme with like sort of hilarious cleavage.
yeah, it's just a line. It's just a line
Yeah.
that's there.
It's like
Okay, that brings. I took a lot of notes. The something that jumped. A couple things jumped out at me. There's some really good stuff in here. But whenever speaking of Padme, whenever she and Anakin are like kissing in the alley, and then 3PO comes up and he's got new gold plating, and Anakin's like, "Let's see it," and it's like, "What?
it's
Wow,
so
wow."
strange.
It's like sexy, and it should be
Yeah.
illegal. Like it's
It's
not allowed.
the and that was Anthony Daniels.
It was because
That
Anthony
dude
Daniels.
will not let anyone else play that role.
He's like, if someone's voicing C-3PO, it's me, and it's gonna
Yeah.
be me forever.
Which, like, good for him.
Yeah,
Get that
honestly,
paper.
get that paper.
Oh
But
yeah,
that
I
part
have heard
was-
his book is awesome. I would love to read that.
That part is hilarious. There's some, and that's the thing. Another pro is there's some really good humor in this.
Yes.
In these shorts, that's just like funny random gags that work really well in animation. I don't know if they'd work as well in live action.
Right. Or even in that sort of 3D animation where there's like gravity and realism. Like at one point I just wrote down, okay, so everyone in this can fly.
Oh yeah. It's just like it is.
I
it
also
is very,
go ahead.
I was gonna say it's very animated to an extent because everything is just very like big and powerful, and it's just very cool.
Yeah, totally. And speaking of his style, I also wrote down that Chancellor Palpatine looks bananas.
Oh,
he looks so good.
His first appearance when he's like clickety clacking his bony fingers, I was like, no.
And like his forehead, like just all the proportions of him are just like so excellent.
Well, and so correct me if I'm wrong, but this was the first.
Thanks, Chase.
Thank you, Chase. Correct me if I'm wrong, Mike. Was this the first appearance of General Grievous before?
Yes. So like this was out between movies, and it was like, we're gonna do all these things. We're gonna show the Clone Wars because we're not gonna have enough time to do that in the movies, which is a little like, that's weird.
Yeah.
But like it created this whole like world unto itself of the Clone Wars. There were like Clone Wars comics and things like that. But yeah, like they invented Grievous and they didn't quite know what the voice was going to be yet, or something like that.
His voice is kind of like
he was just kind of scary guy.
Yeah, it's a little bit of like a James Earl Jones Pretender kind of thing. But
he gets his like chest squeezed in, and that explains the cough and the rasp.
That's another pro I had. Is like this explains
Goofy answering questions we weren't asking,
answering questions that like we weren't necessarily asking, but are kind of like, oh, okay, that's kind of fun. And then also like presenting some questions where you're like, wait, why did that? And then not answering those, which is very Star Wars, of just being like, here, we're not going to really, you don't get to pick which answers you get. We're just going to throw some.
We're going to give you some. Yeah.
You
know what else? Another one that we will mention a lot on the show that we say is a characteristic of something being Star Wars. So whether or not it's an actual Star Wars movie, if people in the movie or the TV show or the book or whatever are sneaking around.
Yeah. There's a lot of sneaking around.
It is very Star Wars, because Star Wars is full of sneaking around. And in this, the whole sequence in that like city planet when the troopers are just like communicating with hand signals. Like, first of all, I love that trope in any kind of like, recon mission or whatever. But it's especially fun when they're cartoons.
Like, it's great. So some other stray things that I wanted to bring up. Speaking of that, this is the other thing I wrote down, and also just weird dialogue again, right? Like some strange chemistry things in that same alley when he's like, when Anakin says, "You do look really good in the dark," and it's just like very upsetting.
At one point, you see like the dark city of Coruscant, and then like Padme's light goes off, and like he was with like I was like, whoa.
And what are we led to believe? Are they going to bed? I hope that's all they're doing, because he's a good Jedi. Also, some other cool random things, right?
Although I think that's the conception of Luke and Leia.
That has to be, right?
Like
the timeline, that's gotta be.
Yeah.
Some other cool random things like the knighting and then the chopping off of the ponytail, the rat tail. That's like a fun little detail.
The slugs that go on his body and do the Tron bikes.
Yeah, give him a little Tron bike. And he goes on his little white savior journey, which is sort of strange.
For the Na'vi from Avatar.
Yeah, it's kind of a weird little side quest, but it's very like indicative and metaphorical for his own side quest, because he's like, I've got to go save these people that were destroyed by the power they tried to wield to save people. And it's like, Anakin, that's what you're doing. Don't you get it? Don't you get it, Anakin? That's what you're doing.
He didn't get it.
He didn't get it.
I do like that they did make him seem kind of dark, like
because he force chokes some of the baddies in that sequence. He kills what's her face, Asajj Ventress.
Oh, and he eats grubs like Timon and Pumbaa.
That part was
was that?
Delightful. I loved that. I was like, man, he's nasty.
And then halfway through, when it sort of shifts into like post episode 2 into pre episode 3, do you know what I mean? Like they get different haircuts essentially. When he has his feathery blowing hair, I was like, my hero.
It's amazing because when he has the little Padawan rat tail braid, he's like sort of scrawny. He's still kind of annoying. And as soon as that gets chopped off,
yoked.
He's like, boom. It's like when you get your rat tail chopped off, it also just like releases like, I guess, steroids in your body. And all of a sudden you can really just become the man you were always meant to be. It's fantastic.
Yeah, totally.
Peter's asking, when did the interest begin for you two? And if we're talking about the interest of how Star Wars is it, that's another question.
Yeah, actually, here's a fun little history lesson. Josiah and I have known each other for quite a while, and we like very quickly after meeting each other bonded over podcasts, and we were like, we should do a podcast. And then basically anytime we'd see each other or talk to each other over the course of 3 years, we were like, what about this? And then we wouldn't follow through. And then eventually we landed on this idea.
Which we enjoy, and there's
comparing other things to Star Wars.
Yeah, and there at the end of the show, you'll find out that and right now, as I'm telling you, our email is agoodpodcast@gmail.com, because that's what this is. It's a good podcast. But it also might be because there was a time when Mike and I were going to do a show called A Good Podcast. That was
where we try to like crack the code of how to make a good podcast. So we like looked up other podcasts and like what they were talking about, and that like the common denominator just was they all have Paul F. Tompkins on them. But we scrapped that idea because we both like Star Wars.
And then we did this one instead. But as far as Star Wars goes, like I was watching it as a kid with the little VHS box set, like the black one, not the gold one.
Stormtrooper on the spine, and then Vader on the spine, and then Yoda on the spine.
Yes, exactly. And then Spielberg
spine
on the spine.
Is that what you call a videotape box edge?
Who knows? At this point, it's
let us know in the chat.
We don't need that word anymore. It is. We can get rid of it. What are some cons? Do you have any I know we talked a little bit.
Yeah, I do. So let's see.
Let me see. What do I have here?
Well, the Joust guy, who is dope, but we've never seen him before. I know his name is Dirge, and I know a lot of these names, but I am going to continue calling them Wolfman Jedi and Shaggy from Scooby-Doo and Joust guy.
Well, and so there is a lot of cool mini characters that are brought up that are given cool things to do. There's and playing in the sandbox of the prequels is super fun, because the prequels sets up a lot of really interesting sci-fi, weird, cool ideas. Like the ship designs are cool, the planets are cool, the aliens are cool, and we get to see some of the Jedi and aliens use powers in ways we didn't see before. What's the name of the Jedi who is a yelling thing from his throat, and it's
that was awesome.
It's super, it's cool.
Is that Havoc from the X-Men?
No.
Or no, wait, who's the guy?
It'd be Banshee.
Yeah, Banshee. Havoc is Scott Summers' brother.
Yeah, Havoc just shoots out.
Or should I not have said that?
Oh God.
Is that a secret?
Well, if you want to go watch Havoc do so, yes, the Deveronian.
That thing.
Thank you. See, we need you guys every time we record.
Truly.
So that you can tell us. Well, Mike knows more of the names than I do.
Maybe the Athorian. Could be either.
Yeah. I don't know. It's the Athorian. The consensus is it's the Athorian. That's what it was.
Yeah. Is that the same thing as the Hammerhead before they figured out the actual names in the Kenner days? Yeah. Okay, cool.
Yeah. The
one of my cons was there are a bajillion ships.
Yeah.
It's awesome. That one of the things I wrote down was this thing might be too cool to be like fully Star Wars. You know what I mean? Like it's not like there's very few parts that are like goofy or hokey. It's like all action, high octane,
all
cool.
action. It's all like pedals to the metal.
Yeah.
It
And there's like
feels.
thousands of ships.
Steven says Star Wars can't be super cool. No, you're right. Star Wars can be super cool.
Yeah, we love Star Wars.
but like the question is, how often do you get that super cool feeling when you're in any Star Wars media? Because I think who knows the weight of what is super cool. It depends on like your tastes and everything.
Like I think the big thing with the green milk nipples on Octo is cool, but it isn't cool.
Hoth is super cool. That is true.
That is also true.
Hoth is chill as hell.
Yeah.
But I lost my train of thought. Of course, it was shocker. But it's a war movie, right? It's scenes of war, which is like we've talked about before in the show. How like there's not a lot of war in Star Wars, like unless you look at more like Rogue One,
sneaking around like spy type.
Right, you're seeing like the
single fighter kind of thing.
Yeah, you're seeing the small missions that happen in between to make the bigger wars happen. And this is like
Star Spies.
This is like there's troops landing. There's like big ships.
And they have to like communicate with each other with their hands.
With hands.
And they use like grappling hooks and stuff.
And there's generals, and you see the Jedi like doing big fighting stuff where you're like, oh, now I understand why the Jedi were like in charge and like peacekeepers or whatever you want to call them, because they're very strong.
I have another con. I think we should also go to our game shortly here, but I have another con that I thought of was they really lean hard into Anakin having the robot hand. And in the movies, they like kind of do everything they can to hide that after we sort of see it once, because like I'm sure it's just like a pain in the ass to like generate in computer generated graphics. So like that one was kind of cool to me, like seeing more of that. It made him seem a little scarier and darker, but I was like, oh yeah, they don't do that really in anything else.
It's like part of his like coming of age journey where he has to like go into the dark, forest or whatever. What's the
Dark Night of the Soul?
Yeah, the Dark Night of the Soul. Thank you. And he's like, I lost my robot hand.
Yeah, and then all the other guys were like, we lost our robot hand.
Yeah, they're like, yes, this guy rules. I like Star Spies. I like the Con Wars. These are what we should rename. Petition to rename all the Star Wars movies. Speaking of those guys.
Speaking of those blue guys, I did a poll on Twitter of which was your favorite character from the Clone Wars series of those dudes, the big blue dudes who got kidnapped and turned into robot guys, the Joust guy, the Shaggy from Scooby-Doo, or who was the other one?
Wolfman.
The Wolfman Jedi. And so no votes. We got a very poor turnout on the Twitter poll, but no votes for Joust Guy or Blue Monsters. And Shaggy from Scooby-Doo was only narrowly defeated by Wolfman Jedi.
Yes, I voted for Wolfman Jedi.
I think I might have too.
He's cool. Yeah, Wolfman Jedi rules.
He's just
also, Shaggy from Scooby-Doo really messed up that whole General Grievous fight. Like, he really messed it up.
Humped. And let's see, other people on Instagram, I posed the same thing, and people said they were a big fan of the slugs that gave Anakin the nice tats, which wasn't one of the answers, but you are right. And then the Shaggy Jedi was so much fun. Zoinks. I loved Dirge, and also how they portrayed Grievous.
Grievous is really cool
in about the crushing of his like rib cage and stuff.
Well, Grievous is cool in the movies too, right? Like he's a really cool, scary design, but I feel like he's more effective in this animation than he is in the movies.
Yeah,
and maybe it's just because
he's a lot more like the xenomorph. Like the alien, like you don't know where he's gonna be.
Right, and you don't know like how he's going to orient his body, and you're like, whoa. And maybe it's just because it's animation, right? It's easier to do that kind of stuff in a 2D setting, I guess, than it is to do it with like CGI or whatever.
When he's balancing on one foot.
Yeah, and he like uses his foot to fight sometimes. I'm like, this guy's cool.
Yeah.
And scary.
So on the show, when we record it normally and not like in a live setting, we go to a break in the middle of it so that we can run ads and make those sweet, sweet pennies. So we are gonna please all of you join us in what will probably be just like the quickest break that like by the end of the sentence we'll start up again.
Yes. So we're gonna go to the Sarlacc pit, which is where we make our money in the show. So let's jump into the
way
Sarlacc
that
pit.
is spelled is $ARLA cent sign.
Yeah. And then pit is spelled
and
normally.
then pit is yeah.
So let's jump on in.
Jump in.
Woo! And we're back.
Sorry, guys.
And Peter said in the chat again, a reminder, we are raising money for the Make-A-Wish Greater LA. So donate with the link in the chat. Get Vocals is matching a third of all donations. So hit it up, y'all. Okay, Mike, what's the game this week?
I think, they're excited. Also matching a third of the donations made through the Get Vocal V coin currency here in this too. So if you have that, you can use that too.
Oh, yes, please. Do it.
Okay, so on the show, we play a game and we always switch it up what it's going to be. Sometimes it's trivia, but usually it's just some stupid thing that we couldn't like think of a good idea.
A lot of times it's like something based on a pun that we thought of, and then we sort of reverse engineer what it is after that. So
right. So this one, though, is a thing that we have done once or twice before, or at least a version of it. It is called Fact Fiction, Fan Fiction, or Fiction Fiction. So in this game, I'm going to describe a story or a circumstance, and then you will have to determine if it is actually real somewhere in Star Wars canon or Legends, because a lot of the Clone Wars stuff sort of got like reduced to Legends, or if it is from a piece of fan fiction, or if I just made it up. So if you think it, quote, really happened, you would say fact fiction. If you think it is from fan fiction, you would say fan fiction.
Right.
And if you think I made it up, you would say fiction fiction. Now, yes, of course, if I made something up, that does qualify as fan fiction. So I suppose if you guess fan fiction, but it was actually fiction fiction, you will get half a point, unless I don't feel like giving it to you.
Okay, great. And our people who are here in the live stream with us can play as well. So you can put your answers in the chat, and if you're right and you beat me, then you have the satisfaction of winning.
We're on the honor system here. If you get a point, you have to keep track of it yourself, and we have no way of knowing if you're lying. And the person in the chat who wins the most points, those points will convert into dreams.
Yes, that you can then put into the sky, and that's it.
And if we were live in person somewhere, we would probably have some crap that we got from a toy store. We'd be able to give it to you, but we are not.
Yes.
So you get
We love giving away things that we no longer have room for in our own homes.
Yeah.
But we unfortunately are in a virtual setting.
So, okay, here we go. Your answers are either fact fiction, fact fiction, fan fiction, or fiction fiction.
And these are specifically related to the characters in the Clone Wars
characters and stories. Yes.
Great. I love this.
So here we go. First one. Anakin and Obi-Wan were assigned to a peacekeeping mission to the home planet of Vulvif Mon, which is the cool Jedi Wolfman.
Great.
And he was assigned to go with them as an interpreter. A village was divided into two factions, squabbling with one another over a very silly issue. Short tails or long tails? Which tail size is best? And it's been going for generations, and it finally came to a head. An actual military skirmish. Mon, Jedi Wolfman, told Anakin and Obi-Wan to each go to the separate camps and provide them with special armor, promising that side that it would give them an advantage to win the battle. But this armor covered up everyone's tails, so once fighting began, nobody knew who to attack. Mon then made a speech to his brethren that they were all one and that they shouldn't fight with one another no matter how they looked.
Okay.
Fiction, fact fiction, fan fiction, or fiction fiction?
I'm going to close the chat so that no one influences my decision.
Okay, I'm seeing a couple different answers coming in.
John came in already. I'm going to close that. This feels to me like too similar to an episode of Avatar: The Last Airbender that I recently watched. And Mike and I are going to do...
Was that the Great Divide one?
Maybe. Because Mike and I are going
like the yucky guys and the prissy guys.
That's part of it. So I'm going to say, Mike, that you made this one up. So I'm going to say fake fiction.
Yes, so we're gonna have to give you as well as Chase a point for fiction. Well, but of course John gets half a point because it was also my own fan fiction. However, I do want to correct you just ever so slightly on where it came from. I mean, of course, that storyline's probably been used in a million things. My guess is it's probably
Dr.
also like
Seuss?
in the Bible. But yeah, well, yeah, the star-bellied Sneetches was one of the ones I thought of, but the specific armor and everything came directly from an episode of Wild Thornberrys. There were like two different groups of monkeys, and one had like no tails and one had long tails, and then they gave them like coconut shells to wear around their bodies. And
so if you
didn't know who to bang on the head with rocks.
If you liked Wild Thornberrys and this show, then you were in a very weird center of a Venn diagram.
Okay, question number 2, or situation number 2. This one is about Dirge, the jousty guy.
Dirge.
Dirge is assigned by Count Dooku to track down Boba Fett.
Oh.
So Boba Fett is, youngish at this point. Yeah, his search leads him to Tatooine, and Jabba finds out he's on the planet. Jabba then also hires Dirge to kill a local criminal who stole from Jabba. Dirge, looking for both of these bounties, essentially, goes to the Mos Espa Cantina, and he spots Boba Fett. He does not manage to capture him, but finds out that Jabba gave Boba the same bounty, and the race for the bounty ensues.
That sounds pretty good.
Let's see. Let people get their answers in here too. Okay. Oh, we've got someone in the center of the of the Venn diagram of the Wild Thornberrys and Star Wars.
Good. I'm gonna say that sounds pretty good. That sounds pretty legitimate. Feels like something that would actually happen. So I'm not gonna let my don't let my decision influence you people, but I'm gonna say that is fact fiction.
Fact fiction is correct. It is a real thing that happened in a Star Wars published thing.
I'm 2 for 2. I am great at this game.
So I looked up Dirge on, we're seeing some people in the chat saying, wasn't this a comic? And Hunted, I think is what it was called. I don't know. I was reading the Wikipedia rather for Dirge, and I was like, oh my God, he has like hundreds of lines of like stuff he was involved in. So I guess amazing. Like he made a real splash. Was he, Dirge. For the people watching, was he introduced in the Tartakovsky series, or was he around before and Tartakovsky was just like, I want to use the cool jousty guy?
We got to use Dirge. Isn't he the one that gets like has the weird things that grow out of him and pull him back together? Right. And then Obi-Wan
introduced in the
up.
comics. Okay, cool.
A little water break.
Yeah, just a quick little water break. All right, this next one is about Jedi Sha'agi, which is the later canonized and then, of course, legendized name of Shaggy from Scooby-Doo. It's spelled basically Shaggy. Sha'agi.
Really? That's hilarious.
Yeah. In the credits, he was just named as Padawan, and then later, of course, just like Wilro Hood and all sorts of other Star Wars people, he got a name because people were like, hey, okay, Sha'agi. I wrote here, he's the Jedi who looks like Shaggy from Scooby-Doo. I already said that. In this story, he and 3 other Jedi Padawans investigate some strange disappearances on a swamp planet. A local farmer woman lets them stay in her home while they investigate.
Okay.
While out one night, the Padawans are attacked by what appear to be the living dead, generations of visitors to this farm, some of whom seem to be the missing travelers. The Padawans then find out their host is actually a shapeshifter and can turn into a cat beast and control people's bodies through the use of dolls in their likenesses. And it's actually Sha'agi and his trusty droid, Scooby-Doo, who bumble their way into stopping their host from adding their bodies to the collection of zombies.
Oh my God.
Fact fiction, fan fiction, or fiction?
I know exactly what this is. I'm going to let people in the chat chime in if they know what this is. Because I know exactly what this is. Because this is this is the best movie of all time. Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island.
That's correct.
Which we have done an episode on. So this is fiction because you made
Yes,
it
I
up.
made this up. So again, fan fiction counts as a half-point answer, but fiction is the fully correct answer.
So
It was based entirely on Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island.
which we've done an episode on, and we decided is the best movie of all time based solely on its
On
runtime.
runtime.
It's
like
about
78 minutes.
About 78 minutes. It's really tight. You can just watch it, get in, get out. It's fun.
Yeah.
It's like every movie should be 78 minutes long. And if your movie isn't 78 minutes long, then like do better, because Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island could do it.
Yeah.
So you
Tighten
gotta do it. Tighten it up.
Some cuts. Okay, two more. This one is about Asajj Ventress, who of course we see in this show, and we don't even ever hardly hear from her, but boy, is she cool and scary. And then she becomes a darling in the later series. She trains under Dooku and fights Anakin on Yavin 4. So in this story, Ventress escapes both Count Dooku and the Republic and finds refuge on the forest moon of Endor. But she must undertake a dangerous mission with Jar Jar Binks and Ewoks to foil a nefarious separatist plot and save the Jedi Order she swore to end.
Okay, this sounds like some kind of fun fan fiction thing where someone's like, I'm going to throw all my favorite things into one pot of chili and make a little fan fiction. So I'm going to say fan fiction.
And we have fan fiction as an answer from John, and Chase is saying that it is history. It may really be that it really happened
in real life.
It is indeed fan fiction. It is from a story called Ventress and the Teddy Bears by a username called the Chuckling Pocket Watch. I felt like I needed to credit this person. Also, just here's a fun little detail. The Asajj Ventress fanfiction rabbit hole is mostly very upsetting.
Is it very NSFW?
It is super NSFW to the level of like I'm upset that I managed to see it.
Yeah, so I've done this game for Mike before, and the fanfiction rabbit holes are very interesting to go down.
Boy, oh boy.
But I also feel it's nice that you felt the need to credit the person, because I've never done that in the past. So, well done.
Man. They are all very rough, the ones that I could see. And like,
oh, I lost Mike in the chat. Did anybody else lose Mike? Am I still here?
Oh no, my internet's
You're
bad.
back.
Oh, good.
Mike's back.
What I was saying was, I don't know how you've done these fan fiction games in the past, but like, do you have to read a bulk of a story just to get the idea? Like, I eventually found some synopses. Oh no, am I not on?
No, you're back now.
Oh, okay.
You're back now. You might be getting all those after the fact.
I have very bad internet.
No, when I made the game, if there was not a description, I didn't do it. And then if there was a description, I would be like, okay, I'll read this description.
I started reading one with Ventress and Anakin, and it started out kind of weird, but just sort of like dark, and then the tone really shifted. Okay, last one, and then that's the end of fact fiction, fan fiction, or fiction fiction. This one is all about C-3PO's sexy gold plating. Okay. In this Tartakovsky thing, he says that he must look presentable in the service of a senator, but here's the story of him getting the gold plating. So, Padme sent him to a droid service office in the Senate building, and he got into a classic C-3PO mix-up. He and another droid were accidentally swapped in terms of who got what job assigned to them, and 3PO was sent to the wrong room and was entirely disassembled and placed in a parts bin, making nervous comments all the while. Of course, his trusty pal R2 saved the day by pulling the pieces of C-3PO to the plating station and cleared up the mix-up with the plating Ugnaught, who was very embarrassed to have serviced the wrong droid, a bounty hunter droid who was captured and scheduled to be disassembled for parts. Fact fiction, fan fiction, or fiction fiction.
So C-3PO getting pulled apart.
Is this just Empire Strikes Back?
I was going to say, C-3PO getting pulled apart is like something that happens to him too often.
Yes.
I mean, he at that point, there's multiple times where that has happened.
Right.
I feel like that it might be fact fiction, because it feels like one of the weird little side stories. They'd be like, here's how it happened, like
Right.
answering the
Like a
questions. Like,
one-off comic or something.
right. Like, we don't really need to know, but they're like, we could tell a fun little story here. So I'm going to say fact fiction. And that's my final answer.
And it was fiction.
No! Did you make all that up?
One of mine.
Damn, dude. You should write for Star Wars.
I sure should.
Call us, Disney.
That was fact fiction, fan fiction, or fiction. And we are getting close to needing to wrap this up to give this a final rating of 1 to 10.
Do we have any more things we haven't covered?
One other thing that I didn't mention, it's not really a pro or a con. In fact, it might just be a con because we don't see much of him in the the majority of Star Wars, but Kit Fisto is just great.
I love that. He's
great
really
the whole time.
Just a really sexy guy, you know? Just sexy.
He's sexy. He's got a charming smile.
I like Mundi and his big forehead. He's cool. Kit Fisto is a terrible mess.
Yeah, Ki-Adi-Mundi is great, and he's like sort of like he's a little like Britishy. I mean, I know he has like a British accent, but he's a little like foppish in this.
Yeah, you feel like he's a very like he has a certain puts on airs.
Yes. And that's because he's got a lot of wives.
Yeah, did you guys know this? You guys might know this, but Ki-Adi-Mundi is the only Jedi that is allowed to be married and also have sex.
No, that's big of me.
That's big of me, because apparently his species has so few males that there was a specific order put in for the Jedi Order that was like, okay, he can do it. No one else can. So he has a bunch of wives and I think a lot of children, specifically because
I would certainly hope so, if that's the whole point.
Simply because their species needs to repopulate. So that's just a fun fact that I learned one time, I think creating a similar game to the one we just played.
Yeah.
Just a fun Star Wars fact is that one Jedi is allowed to have sex, and it's Ki-Adi-Mundi.
Right.
Let's see. That's a good question. How many of them are forces? If it would be very unfortunate if, or I guess fortunate, I don't know, if all of Ki-Adi-Mundi's children or all the males of that species were force sensitive. Let's see. I'm trying to see if I had any other random thoughts. Oh yeah, we just talked about Kit Fisto. I said, hell yeah, Kit Fisto's hot. That's one of my notes. They made him hot. Chase agrees. He's hot.
He is hot. One of my notes is that Qui-Gon's nose is bananas.
Oh yeah, it looks nothing like.
Yeah, he looks really nuts.
Wolfman Jedi is also very hot. That's true. A lot of the Jedi in this, you're just like, dang, these guys are built. They're looking good.
Yeah.
I love when Yoda mind tricks like an ally, when he's like Jedi mind tricking the Padme's head of security guy, whatever his name. I can't remember his name.
That guy. Right, yeah.
And I'm like, that seems not allowed. Like
Typho.
You're not allowed to Typho. Yes, you're not allowed to like Jedi mind trick your allies. It seems very not okay. But
it also like that the Jedi mind trick is it's sort of a plot armor devicey kind of thing that it works when it needs to work and it doesn't otherwise. Like it says, like it only works on the weak minded. But like, are we to say that Typho is weaker minded than Watto?
Yeah, very
money.
And like, if he is, why do you want him in charge of your security? Another thing I noticed was like when R4 gets blown up, it reminded me of what we've talked about recently, that droids are dogs.
Yeah.
And it's sad whenever they die, because it's the same as when the dogs die.
I'm looking down my notes and I'm seeing free climbing on cliffs, Tandy Newton, Anthony Hopkins, and then I realized that is for Mission Impossible 2. Right.
That's something we already did.
The episode that's coming out on Monday.
I have to edit that. I'm not looking forward to listening about that garbage movie. Anyway, sorry. That's just a sidetrack on something else we recorded about. Mace Windu is cool. There's cool foreshadowing for later stuff, which I think you do have in Star Wars, like when Anakin holds Asajj Ventress's like 2 red sabers after he like beats her and stuff. Like you're like, foreshadowing. It's very cool. Yeah, the cons I think all the cons I have are also pros. Like it's a weird 50-50 thing because like the medium of it is animation, but there's a lot of Star Wars that is animated. The
Sure.
fact that the music is so important and like it is very good music, but that
Yeah, I
sometimes
had
it's
a
only
music.
music.
Yeah, I had like a 50-50 on that too. Like they play like themes from the movies, like some of the best ones, but then the rest of the music is very like temp tracks,
Yeah, it's just
like
sort of like, and then half of it is like a silent movie with no dialogue, which is not very
right.
Star Wars. It's very specific to the.
However, George Lucas has said before, like the dialogue is meaningless. Like it's supposed to be like you could watch it on mute. I can't remember the exact quote, but I know he has said something like that. That like the dialogue is just like
And that's Mike's George Lucas impression,
yeah.
almost as good as it's Hayden Christensen. And then like I think the biggest thing that we've talked about this before is like this is a specific creator vision, right? Because it's Tartakovsky's vision of how this goes, and and based on the movies have like the heaviest weight when we're talking about like how Star Wars does it, and like original trilogy and prequels both have that. You could argue that some of the sequel trilogy still has that. Like I think you get that especially with. I think you get that with JJ in Force Awakens. I think you get that with Rian Johnson in Last Jedi, and then they never made a ninth movie, which is so sad.
Yeah, that sucks.
But the specific creator vision, I think, is points for Star Wars in general because even outside of the movies, you get like Filoni with the other animated series. Like there is a lot of times someone puts their mark on like what they feel like is cool about Star Wars. And I think that is what's cool about this like series of shorts. It's very cool.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah, I feel like I'm pretty close. Is that your phonetics journal?
No, this is my regular journal.
Okay.
So yeah, should we decide what our unit of measure is going to be?
Yeah, so every episode we pick a different unit of measure for our scale of 1 to 10
because we like to make things difficult.
Yeah.
Let's see. Okay, so for the Clone Wars, I think my unit of measure.
Oh, we're getting carrots as a suggestion.
I was gonna say I think mine is gonna be the weird leeches that turn him into the cool tattoos. Yeah,
that was what I had in my head.
Hey, so if
the tattoo slugs,
if they're the same,
yeah. Oh, grubs. Yeah, no, I like grubs. Like straight up Timon and Pumbaa grubs.
And the way he like slurps up the long worm, it's like it's so strange. I like it because it's like, well, Anakin's from this like desert planet and they were poor, so like he probably did eat bugs, but it's just such a weird random like thing where they're just like he eats bugs.
Yeah.
Okay,
so I don't know. What do you? I'm thinking this is definitely on the plus side of middle of the road.
It's high for me, right?
Yeah.
It feels more Star Wars than some of the Star Wars movies that are less Star Wars. And it's definitely more Star Wars than like other movies that we've given high ratings that aren't Star Wars. You know what I mean?
We are bad at our job.
Yeah, our scale is listen, this is a hard job. And sometimes we forget what we've given things before. And then
like I think some Star Wars movies themselves actually got like a 5 or a 6, which is sort of ludicrous because we've given 7s and 8s to things like Guardians of the Galaxy.
Listen, it's hard, okay? It's a hard job. The most Star Wars thing that's ever been on our show, it's a good question. And it is Star Wars Episode 6, Return of the Jedi gets a 10 out of 10.
It was the only ever 10 we've ever awarded.
And I think if you look into your heart, you'll realize that is true.
Yeah.
And to give you further context, Phantom Menace is a 9.
Yeah.
And isn't, what's the other 9?
Empire?
Empire, I think, is the
that
other
doesn't
9.
feel right.
No, maybe
Force Awakens might have been.
We'll see.
I don't remember.
Listen, go listen to the episodes.
Yeah, right. We don't want to spoil all of them.
Rogue One.
I will say
our
Return of the Jedi episode. We were both like lit. Like afterwards, we stayed on for a little bit, and like after we were done recording, and we were just like, "Oh my god, I feel like we like just made a discovery."
We were like, we really figured because we like, both knew it was.
Should we call like academic journals?
Yeah, we both knew it was going to be a 10, but we were like, "Oh, okay." Real quick, for those of you who are in the chat, the highest is Return of the Jedi with a 10. Phantom Menace and Empire both got a 9.
I
The
think
the
so.
question of Rogue One is the least Star Wars with about like a 5.5 or
Yeah, I think
6.
it was. I think it might have been. Which that has been the one that we said we got to revisit
Yeah, we got
because
to go
like
back to that one
I'm not
because
sure we did
obviously it
we
is
did
a
it
Star
dirty.
Wars movie, so it probably is higher than that.
Right.
And we reserve the right to go back and change our ratings. That's the thing. It's our show. We can do it if we
Yeah.
want to. But I
And
think
this is all made up.
that's true. I think the thing that got the least of everything might have been like
The Music
I
Man? Was that did that?
yeah, the Music Man was pretty low. We did swimming, the activity of swimming, which I think got like a 1 or a 2 maybe. It's
Yeah,
very
yeah.
silly. But anyway, so I think I'm gonna give this something pretty high. I feel like for me this falls like I think it's gonna be like maybe a 7 or an 8 of the
Hmm.
cool little leeches. Does that feel too high? Does the 8 feel too high?
I don't that's up to you. My
What were you gonna
brain
say?
wasn't going quite that high. My I was
Maybe like a
thinking on the
7?
high end of 6, like maybe ever approaching 7 but not meeting the asymptote of 7. But you
Okay.
know what? Let's give them the benefit of the
Let's
doubt.
just
Let's
give it a
call it a
7.
7.
Let's call it a 7 because I feel like 8 is too high, but 7, I always feel weird doing 7 because 7 always feels like a cop out answer for us because it's like
I
right in
know
the
a
middle.
lot of things are 7 and it's like 7 is a very large window
Yeah,
for
yeah.
us.
But I feel like a 7 out of 10 cool little glowy blue leeches that give you cool
Yes,
tattoos
or grubs.
or grubs.
Um Yeah,
Well, we did it.
I'm still kind of on the fence. Like I do like boy oh boy.
And hey, sound off in
Yeah,
the
I like
chat.
7. It has characters from Star Wars in it.
Yeah. Sound off in the chat if you think there's a better rating or if it should be higher or lower based on
Yeah.
our rating which you've just learned about.
But you know what
Um
else you could do about ratings is give this podcast a 5-star rating.
it's true. So we've got about 5 minutes left, so we're gonna wrap
Yeah.
up some stuff here. So once again, go donate. We've got the
Yes.
donation link for Make-A-Wish. If you donate with the get vocal bucks or whatever they're called, the V currency,
V coins, I think.
you can get vocal will match those.
Yes.
So if you want us on the internet, we are at How Star Wars Is It on
How Star Wars is Kylie Minogue.
that is a good
You
question.
are exactly our audience.
Yes, you get it. You get it.
We
I
did
think
do musicians before. We did do Green Day at one point.
yes.
So
Everybody who's been watching the show, I think you guys understand what's going on.
yeah.
I have a friend actually that would probably do a very good job at figuring out how Star Wars Kylie Minogue is. But yeah, we're at How Star Wars Is It on Twitter and Instagram.
Yes.
You can also email the show at agoodpodcast@gmail.com because that's what this
Right.
is. If you
Yeah,
have
we
any
hope.
suggestions or questions or concerns, if you're
Yeah,
concerned,
we love getting your concerns via email.
and then so I'm gonna plug something for Mike real quick. Mike is a toy maker. He makes really cool bootleg toys, and if you go
Yeah,
to
I'm
his
holding one right now. Actually,
yeah,
I don't
that's
know
his
how
little
well you can see this. This
Star
is if
2D2.
R2D2 were also David Bowie's Ziggy Stardust. And I made a bunch of these like 10 of these a long time ago. And then I finally put a couple online and I sold one today.
Yeah, they're very cool. And if you liked Bon Appetit Test Kitchen before everything happened, there's also cool Claire Saffit's toys.
Yeah, I'm at Word Gospel 09 on YouTube as well as Instagram. But then my toy Instagram is Rule Follower Toys.
Yeah, go to Word Gospel 09 on YouTube because there's a really cool video about the making of one of the Claire Saffit's action figure, and also there's a viral video that Mike made when he was 19 or something.
Yeah,
or like 18.
It was like over 10 years ago,
and it has like millions of views, and it's great.
It's a Bohemian Rhapsody parody about calculus, written by 2 high schoolers.
It's fantastic. So then you can find me at josiah.biz on every platform. I never post anything. You can also go to my website, which is josiahrobinson.biz. And you can check out an audiobook that I narrated recently. It's there. It's cool. Hey, we're taking a picture with the Ricola
I realized I said I was going to do that and post it before we started, and we have 3 minutes left.
And now we're almost done. So that's where you can find us. Also, yeah, if you like the show, go download, go listen to it. Tell your friends if you liked the show. Tell them to listen to it. And the audiobook, yeah, I probably should talk about that. I should probably say the name of it. It's called The Code. It's called The Code. It's called The Code. I'm going to say it. It's called The Code. If your AI loses his mind, get to take meds. It's a long subtitle. It's a good book. You get to hear me do an Australian accent, and it's fantastic. And it's sci-fi coolness. And yes, if you like the show, tell your friends to listen to it and leave us a 5-star review on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts.
Yeah, that really helps. And another thing we say is if you have any friends who do like the show already, tell them to keep listening to it.
Yes, please. We love when we have people keep listening. But I think it's about time for Tubby Bye-Bye, right?
It is about time for Tubby Bye-Bye.
We have a lot of closing things we have to say contractually.
And they're all bad.
And they're all stupid, like the ones we've been saying this whole time. So,
yes.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today on the live stream on Get Vocal. Tune in for the rest of the Force Fest shows.
Yeah, thanks to Force Fest for having us, to Get Vocal for putting it all together.
We are super pumped that we got to do this. It's been very fun. And I guess we're done, right? So like we always say,
yeah, we love you.
And may the fourth be with you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
We did it. We're gone.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks for
for tuning in, y'all. Thanks for staying and hanging out in the chat. And we don't do anything now, right?
Right.
The admin stops the broadcast. I'm like, I don't want to break